That's not good.
Hello. I'm back on the Fender guitar, the acoustic, because as I said, it needed a lot of repair. I want you to take a good look at this part here, right in here if you can. And this is what you want to be really careful of. Hold on, let me back off, make sure you're in the frame. Okay. See if we can get in closer on this. Focus in a little bit more, hold on. Okay, hopefully you can see that. This fraying that's going on in here, this comes when you're putting the guitar down. And this is a very bad place to let this fray, because what happens is it chips off all the lacquer. And that's what it is right now. All that lacquer is off right here. And then moisture starts getting into there, and then eventually cracks will start coming. There's one little tiny hairline crack there that's only, probably a fraction of an inch, probably 1 millimeter long. But you see there's tons of dents. Pull back again. There's at least 50 deep dents on the lower part of his body. Okay. I'm readjusting the camera. Now you see it as you stand here, you can see all the white parts or the clear parts. It depends on the area. You can see some shiny clear parts in here, and then some where the sand is getting in there, the dust is getting in there, and it's showing up as white, the larger ones, the deeper ones. Alright, so I've counted close to about 50, give or take. So on this one, you have to sand. There is no other option if you want to get rid of them, because it would take too long to singly fill each and every one of them. So what we're doing is we're alleviating the low ones, the ones that are not too deep, and keeping the real deep ones like you have here. So that'll reduce it down to maybe a handful, maybe 5 or 6, which can be easily remedied with maybe a little thin lacquer. We can drop in there and let it dry, and then scrape it off with the razor blade. Okay, let me put this back now. That's one. Then we have the bridge here. The bridge was marred up as well, so I had to sand that down, and we'll touch that back up again. Here maybe the holes are a little bit out of shape, so we'll just kind of ream them a little bit, get them back into shape. Now, here is where the pick, you have pick chip out right there on the hole, the sound hole right here. So I already sanded that a bit. That's all you can do there. Is do this and get the bumpiness out of it. Because what's happening here is we're opening up the raw wood, and because it's bumpy and there's little microchips in there which you can't see, moisture gets in there and it just starts fraying out and working in, and again cracks begin to grow. So what we'll do here right now, matter of fact, we can do this one. The best thing we can do for this, to stop this from getting worse, is to take some Loctite here, or any kind of CA glue, and put it on there. Why are we doing this? Well, it stops it from fraying. Some of this glue will absorb into the wood and make that wood stronger in this area. So it's not going to alleviate the chip out where you see I had to sand away, but what it's going to stop it from doing is make it harder for that to chip out now or suck in moisture. And we can touch that up and sand that off again and touch it up with a little lacquer when we spray over here. Okay, moving on. Let's come over here. To the headstock. Let's get a little closer in here. Okay. Readjust here. You see the discoloration in here. Well, I had to sand this even because this is the crack right here, and the crack comes around like this. And the reason we have CA glue here, just like I did over on the sound hole, we pour that in there because you can see the crack. If you look right here, you can see a little bit of the opening there to the crack where the neck had, the headstock had broken. So when we sand this, we're sanding this way. We want this to blend in with the upper part of the headstock to this part of the headstock, so that this is smooth. Another thing we want to do is fill in any kind of gaps or anything, because once we start adding color to this and we finally add the lacquer to this, all your imperfections are going to show. We want to reduce those imperfections as much as possible. So by filling this in, we can sand again, but this time when we sand, we don't have to worry about catching onto this wood and breaking off that wood into chips. Because what you've done is you've made that wood essentially stronger by putting CA glue in there and allowing it to soak in overnight. So let's look at it in action now. You can come in and see as I'm pushing up like that, if this CA glue wasn't in there, some of these thin, very fine pieces of wood that are joining the upper and lower would begin to chip off. The sandpaper would hold on to that and you get little chips, which you don't want. So I'll focus on this area here, since this is the worst of the headstock. You see how I'm sanding that and nothing is chipping away. And this is actually filled in right there. Isn't that great? So this is going to give us a nicer finish. Without boring you, let me see how much I can get here to knock this down. Now remember, this upper part is a piece of laminate, actually, very thin, and we're actually sanding into the laminate itself. See this here? Where the top and the bottom come together, you see how you can hardly see where that crack is? You can only really see it here, right? Before we filled this in with CA glue, you can clearly see the crack, the break. From here to here, you can clearly see that it was sorely visible. You see how that blends in well, and we haven't even touched it up yet. So, you know, this is a very, very important step when you're joining the neck. That's the difference between the repair being okay to being really good. So we might fill this part in again. We have a little bit of an indentation here. And probably the best thing you can have on you, hold on 1 minute. Give me 1 second. The best thing you can have is one of these brushes. You see that? So we can fill this in and let it dry a little bit more. There's one right there you can see. And it goes from here to here. And we can follow any part of the crack that we see standing out a little bit and let that dry. When we dry, we can come back over that, and that'll be very nice. You know, we'll eventually get rid of that, visually seeing that, which is great, because by the time we start adding color back to this top piece of laminate on the headstock, you're going to hardly see this crack at all. So it's going to make it nicer for this to blend in and not see the crack at all. So that's going to be a top-notch repair right there. Okay? Thank you very much, and don't forget to keep watching. And like. And comment. I'd love to hear your comments. Okay? Thank you. Have a great day, and happy holidays, everyone. Yeah, thank you. Please subscribe and like. Get more information and repair videos. Invite me over for dinner. Enjoy.